And we're back for another week. Good morning. It is the Sunspot during the Sunrise Over Selma morning show. And joining me is the lovely Miss Cindy Fisher from the Selma Sun. Hey, how are you this morning?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing quite well. Thank you very much. I hope everything's going good.
Yes, it's a lovely rainy day here in Selma.
Yeah, we got some rain. We may even see some rather heavy weather this afternoon. It doesn't look like it's going to be as bad as what we've had the past couple of weeks, but it's still the potential for some severe high winds and heavy rain, things like that. So everybody needs to kind of be on the lookout. And as they say on the TV, be weather aware.
Be weather aware. I like it.
How can you not be weather aware? When you walk out, aren't you immediately aware of the weather?
Yeah, depends on what kind of awareness they're looking for.
Right, exactly. So quickly, let's tell everybody what we're doing. This is the Sunspot, a special presentation of Scott Communications and the Selma Sun, which is why we call it the Sunspot. And we are talking about the COVID-19 coverage and other things now. We're kind of branching out into other things going on in our community. Cindy, since you're the owner and publisher of the Selma Sun, tell them about the Sun and who you are.
Yes, I'm the owner and the publisher of the Selma Sun. And we are a weekly newspaper that comes out on Thursdays. And we are also online at selmasun.com. And we have a pretty big social media presence. So look for us on Facebook to see. We post all day. So you'll see 4 or 5 stories a day a lot of times, especially right now with our stories. We don't wait for print. But the print product has a lot of new things that you haven't seen online. So we have lots of different places that you're going to get information about Selma and Dallas County.
And one thing I like about the print is it goes in a lot of times goes into a lot more detail too. So that's always good to see as well.
Yes, and we do recipes there. We have a lot of different. We have a school page, education, where we have a lot of photos from the schools. Of course, right now that's a little harder to come by.
Yeah.
But I will say, all schools are good about posting things that, like Selma City Schools just did Edgewood Elementary did a real cute recipe challenge, which teaches kids to read and to measure out things. And they had some great pictures of kids that were cooking and making things with their parents, and a secretary doing blackberry jam. So there's still pictures out there that's on Facebook and other places where they're still sharing so they can keep their community feeling like a community.
And that is so important at a time like this, keeping the community, keeping it like it's supposed to be, as much as possible. And that's very, very difficult, but that's one of the things we're trying to do around here. And one of the reasons why we have this show, The Sunspot.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many ways that we're being able to gather people. And that's what, I figured the radio, and that's how we kind of started this show, 5 or 6 weeks ago. This is kind of a new way, a new old-fashioned way of having a variety show where we can talk to people, and while you're in quarantine, you might as well listen in for an hour about things that are going on in your community, directly straight to your house while you are in quarantine and not able to go anywhere.
That's right. And speaking of in quarantine and what's going on, let's a couple of quick numbers in the state. One of the good things, and you'll hear this in the we're going to play the press conference that the governor held yesterday about opening the economy. And one of the things they talked about is how the number of cases across the state is starting to level. It's pretty much leveled off, which means we're not getting a whole lot of new cases. We're getting kind of the same. And according to Scott Harris, somewhere in the neighborhood of 195 to 200 a day. And what we're looking for is for that to start going down. But right now in the state, we have 6,750 cases total. Here in Dallas County, there's 34 active, 3 unfortunate fatalities. Wilcox County, 59 and 1. Autauga, 36 and 4. Chilton, 51 and 1. Marengo, 41 and 3. Perry County has been holding at 9 cases for a couple of weeks now. No fatalities there, but then it's a very it's a considerably fewer, a smaller population.
There's only about 9,000 people in Perry County.
Right. So, yeah.
But we do have a story on the cover of this week's paper that is about a clinic, a drive-through. The Vaughn Clinic in Marion did a drive-through in the Dollar General parking lot.
Oh, okay, cool.
And so they did about 85 tests there. So the testing hasn't been all that available in Perry County either.
Well, and that's,
so the number 9 we are, very happy with and hope it stays that way. But they also haven't had a lot of testing, so that seems to be kicking in. And that was from tests donated from Vaughn, from DCH in Tuscaloosa. So it's good that they're actually actively getting out there to get some testing done.
Right, and as the testing becomes more available and quicker, we may see a slight uptick in some of these number of cases. But again, the good thing overall is that it is leveling, and nationwide it's leveling off. And in some places, I read a story, I forget where it was now, I should have written down, but that to actually seeing fewer new cases. So that's a big plus. I know last week in New York City, they started seeing the number of deaths going down, which is a very good sign, especially in a place like New York City that was hit. So I believe that was New York. Yeah, that was New York City. So I tell you what, Cindy, why don't we go on and one of the big problems, one of the big issues that we've had during all of this is the economy. And, there is nothing but dark news about the economy, both statewide and nationwide and locally. And we really want to see that change. And the governor has put us on a path to bringing the economy back. All the governors, matter of fact, a number of states, they're not just Alabama, but Georgia, Oklahoma, Montana, Colorado, have a list of a number, Florida, Texas, Wisconsin. I mean, a bunch of states have started that path back to opening the economy, opening the businesses back up. So,
right.
Let's go on and play the interview, the press conference from yesterday, and see what the governor had to say about how she's going to open the state up.
Sounds good.
During the last 6 weeks, what our citizens have done is working, and I appreciate that so many people have been willing to do the right things to keep themselves healthy as well as to protect others to be well and healthy too. And this has not been an easy process. And we are not where in a perfect world that we want to be. However, the people of Alabama are doing the hard things to ensure that we can get back to our routines just as soon as possible. And today, we're taking another step in that direction. Before I announce the changes that we're making, I'd like to first acknowledge a few people that are with me today. Dr. Harris continues to be a great partner in this venture, and I know it's not been an easy task, but I sure do thank you, Dr. Harris, for your wise counsel and your realistic approach as you have provided great leadership for us during this process. Your measured and balanced approach have given the people of Alabama confidence, the people that you and I both serve, and I know I'm not alone in expressing our gratitude for your leadership during this time. Dr. Harris has worked diligently to ensure that we have more testing capabilities. And as we work to begin re-entry into our workplaces and return to daily routines, it is essential that we keep monitoring those infected with the COVID-19. Reopening Alabama's economy is certainly not as simple as flipping a switch or snapping your fingers. Like any good leader should, I have sought counsel from many avenues and received many, many recommendations. In fact, these are just some of the many reports and suggestions that we've received in the last few days, from the Small Business Commission to each member of our congressional delegation in Washington. These suggestions are very broad and included many different scenarios, but I truly appreciate every one of them and the hard work and partnership that they represent. The 7 members of the executive committee of my coronavirus task force are here with me today, and these folks have been diligently working to help me incorporate these ideas into the plan. This executive committee, led by my finance director, Kelly Butler, has recommended to me a thoughtful, well-planned timetable on how we can open our economy back up. On April 30th, our current stay-at-home order will expire. Issuing this order in the first place was not something I did lightly, and it was extremely difficult to tell businesses to close their doors. But it was done out of a need to get a handle on the spread of this virus. On March 13th, I originally issued guidelines, strongly urged recommendations, you might say, that if we all just did our part, then hopefully that would have been enough. At that time, I spoke about my reluctance to issue a stay-at-home order because I've always known that if the government kills a business, Washington can't print enough money to bring it back to life. I offered a solution that was based on the information we had at the time to slow the spread and to mitigate the once predicted hospital surge. Folks, I believe that all business is essential and truly regret any suggestion to the contrary. No matter the size, if you are conducting commerce and providing a paycheck, you have tremendous value to our state. On March 13th, we selected a list of specific businesses to remain open based on their risk of spreading the virus due to specific functions. Our intent was never to pick winners and losers, as some have wrongly suggested. We entered a safer at home recommendation on March 27 that we hoped would eliminate the need for a stay-at-home order. But unfortunately, it did not. For that reason, we enacted a stay-at-home order on April the 4th due to the continued spread of the virus and the fear of hospital surge. As of this week, we no longer believe our hospitals will see an overwhelming amount of ICU patients who need ventilators as we once believed, and that is sure good news for sure. While we have not seen a decrease in the amount of newly diagnosed COVID-19 patients, we have seen stabilization, a leveling off, if you will, in the amount of cases. Like everyone else, I look forward to easing back into our routines with caution. Just like we eased into this current stay-at-home order, we will also be thoughtful and careful as we ease back into our social interactions. Today, I am announcing that we will once again enter a safer at-home order that will still require social distancing and urge our people to continue taking all health precautions necessary as some people will return to the workplace. And while maintaining focus on our personal health, it's now time that we also focus on our economic health. And this, too, will be a thoughtful, methodical process. My fellow Alabamians, I am pleased to say that because of the efforts during these unprecedented days, we can roll back many of the restrictions that have been placed upon certain social gatherings and businesses. On April 30th at 5 p.m., our safer at home order will go into effect. All individuals, and especially vulnerable persons, are encouraged to exercise personal responsibility in slowing down the spread of COVID-19 by minimizing travel outside the home. You will be urged to wear face coverings around people from other households when you leave your house. Obviously, no one's going to arrest you if you don't, but it's just good, sound medical advice, and it's for your safety as well as for the safety of those with whom you come in contact. You are also urged to continue proper hand washing and other common sense hygiene. All non-work related gatherings of 10 persons or more or non-work gatherings of any size that cannot maintain a consistent 6-foot distance between persons are prohibited. However, some top-level changes in this new order are as follows. Employers should take reasonable steps for employees to avoid gatherings of 10 persons or more, to practice social distancing, and make strong efforts to disinfect their office space. Under this less restrictive order, all retail businesses will be allowed to open with a 50% occupancy rate and not allow customers to congregate within 6 feet of one another. Our state beaches will be open, providing people abide by social distancing and the gatherings guidelines. And the mayors of our coastal towns have assured me they will take the lead and be proactive in enforcing the gathering guidelines. Elective medical procedures can resume if providers take reasonable guidelines from their state regulatory boards or CDC guidance. My fellow Alabamians, let me be abundantly clear. The threat of COVID-19 is not over. We're still seeing the virus spread, and all of our people are susceptible to the infection. The greatest disservice for the people who might be watching me here today is to think that by lifting the comprehensive health restrictions, that this must be a sign that there's no longer a threat of COVID-19. Folks, we must continue to be vigilant in our social distancing both today and for the foreseeable future. And I encourage everyone to practice productive teleworking if possible, and be as innovative as you can as you open your workplaces. Ensure you're taking every precaution while getting back to work. It's certainly been a challenging month for sure, but better days are ahead of us, I'm sure of that. And I just want to thank the people of Alabama for being disciplined and patient as we move into what I hope will be a better season for our state. Now let me call on Dr. Harris to give his update. Dr. Harris.
Thank you, Governor. Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. Let me just briefly remind you where we are right now. We're around 6,600 confirmed cases. That's over the last month and a half, with about 242 deaths so far reported here in Alabama. Like we have mentioned to you before, we see that our African-American Alabamians are disproportionately represented in those deaths. They represent close to half of those deaths. And that is because we believe this disease does have a predilection for people that have chronic health problems, diabetes and heart disease, and seniors, and so on. And so we recognize that these are still vulnerable people that we still need to protect. And also, I certainly do agree it's very reasonable for us to begin a gradual opening like this. I really appreciate Governor Ivey and what she has done on this. This has just been really, really difficult decisions, and she's done a terrific job of keeping everyone safe and trying to balance all those factors that are important. We believe there are certain types of activities that it is safe for Alabamians to resume. Clearly, people certainly do need to return to work, and we want to make that as safe as we possibly can do. We feel like we have seen a number of improvements recently, as the governor mentioned to you. Our case numbers are relatively flat. We are somewhere around a couple of hundred cases a day. Over the past few days, we've seen numbers of about 148, 209, 189, 261, and so on. So we occasionally are a little higher or a little lower, but tend to stay around that baseline of around a couple of hundred cases a day. The deaths that we have seen have been fairly flat as well. We continue to see some of those, unfortunately, but they're certainly not accelerating at those rates like we saw earlier on. we're very pleased at how hospitals have been able to preserve their capacity. They have not had ventilator shortages like we had thought, or when they have had that short term, they've been able to share among themselves and manage that. We do have adequate ICU beds and the ability to care for people within the four walls of the hospital, and have not needed the alternative care sites that we had prepared for. So all these things are very encouraging to us. We've mentioned more than once to you about the White House gating criteria for moving to a phase one opening of the economy. We have met two of those three gating criteria. We have not met all of those criteria. We feel good about the criteria related to symptoms, the criteria related to hospital capacity. We have yet to meet the 14-day sustained decline that is recommended in those guidelines. And I would say for that reason, we are not proceeding to the full phase one opening consistent with the White House plan. The White House plan suggested opening entertainment venues and gyms and restaurants and a number of other things that we're not doing at this time. But we do think what the governor mentioned to you earlier is exactly the right approach. It's a very gradual and reasonable way for us to safely get people back to work and get the economy going again. And we will continue to monitor the case numbers that we have. And as people get back to work and get back out in public again, we certainly hope they can maintain the things that they need to do to keep us all safe and healthy. We believe that a gradual reopening makes a lot of sense, but as Governor Ivey mentioned, this really is up to the people of Alabama to keep doing the right thing as they have been doing so far. I have appreciated so much the efforts that I've seen from people. So many folks have really done their very best to make sure that they're keeping themselves safe and keeping their family members safe, and we realize that has been done at great personal cost for many of them. And so even as we open things back up, we need to continue to ask Alabamians to work with us, to continue to do things a little bit differently for the future. As the governor mentioned, we are going to recommend that people wear face coverings like this or like those that you can make at home when you're going to be out in groups of people that you're not related to, or when you can't maintain a 6-foot distance between people. For a number of reasons, this was not an order, but this is a very strong recommendation, and we think it's the right thing to do, and we want all of you to do that. This is the mask I wore in the car on the way up here, and this is what I wear when I go out for takeout, and I would encourage all of you to do those sort of things as well. Most importantly, please remember that we need to protect the most vulnerable people in our society. We have seniors who represent about 3/4 of all the deaths that we have seen so far. But we have a lot of people with chronic disease in our state, people with diabetes and with heart disease and with lung disease. And we know that those people are much more likely to do poorly if they're exposed. So please keep that in mind, even if you don't feel that you yourself are at risk from this disease. Please think about your loved ones, think about those that you care about, and try to protect them as well. We know that we have a ways to go to get completely back where we were, but I think we're moving in exactly the right direction and exactly the right speed. We know there are some close contact professions out there that we have not addressed today. Those jobs where people literally put their hands on their customers are certainly a risk category that's different from other types of businesses, and we hope to be able to address that very soon. We know people continue to have a lot of questions about that.
So there we go. That was the yesterday's press conference that the governor held, explaining how we're going to now move into not a complete phase one, apparently, since we don't have the death rate dropping off, but starting into phase one of opening the economy back up. And some of the businesses that are not going to be open yet are restaurants and entertainment venues, gymnasiums, where there's a lot of people in close contact. So, Cindy, but we're at least on the road back to economic recovery as well as health recovery.
And we're hearing a lot of folks here in Selma already promoting that they will be open as of Friday. So that would be like Queen City Market I know Harper's Chapel Boutique has been very actively saying we can't wait. So there's businesses that will definitely look at the ability to reopen, following the guidelines of the 50% occupancy. And so we'll just have to see how it goes. There's some numbers, and I'm not even sure if it's true, that Nashville, after they opened, had seen a big spike. So we don't want, one of the big things too is a lot of people are saying if we just stay in, we'll still get college football in the fall.
There you go. That's the most important stuff, right?
And
there you go.
well, if you see it dragging out, you don't want that second wave, as they keep fearing would come, to
Right.
be right before football starts.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
it's an economic boom for Alabama,
Oh, there
for
really is.
the
And that's
SEC
so important.
especially, but for the whole country. And it's a morale thing.
Exactly.
You invite people over and you watch the sports yourself. You go in person and get to root for your folks, but you buy the shirts.
Yeah.
You buy the merchandise. It's an economic boom. So we kind of look at it like, okay, if we're slowly opening now, we got to do it right so that we can have a continued, schools starting back in the fall. Wouldn't that be great? We've talked about homeschooling, those of us that are reluctant homeschool teachers.
Yeah, that would be. I know a lot of people would love to see that come back. So I'm going to get
Yes.
Cheryl Smedley on the phone, the director of our Selma Area Chamber of Commerce.
And we can talk to her some about the
Yeah.
businesses that are talking about reopening, the caution that they're taking. I bought an item from Look the other day from Facebook
Oh,
for
yeah.
my new house here
Good
in Selma.
morning.
So
Hey, Miss Cheryl Smedley, how you doing this morning?
I'm doing fantastic, Ron.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. Cindy's on the line, too.
Hello,
Hi,
Cindy.
Cheryl.
Good morning.
So we just played the press conference that the governor gave yesterday about slowly opening up the state to commerce and trying to get the economy back on track. So we wanted to ask you a couple of questions about how are things in our area, and I understand too that we had spoken yesterday that there are some new places to get help that you've discovered.
Yes, I've been researching out grant opportunities because, as we all know, the PPP plan resumed Monday. All area banks and credit unions are currently taking applications, but we know that it's challenging because so many people are trying to get into the system all at once. So, we're looking for other opportunities once again. And so, let's see, Verizon. Let me get my little sheet out here. I'm sorry.
I know you got a.
Yep. Hold on just 1 minute. I thought I had it on the top of my list.
That's okay. But you had mentioned the system being backed up. I guess one of the big things we need to learn and during all this is patience, because and that's one of the things I'm the world's worst about being patient. But,
me too.
when there's so many people that need so much help, then you're going to computer systems can only handle so much. So
That's right. And it's called Hello Alice, and Verizon Business are offering grants. And you just need to Google businessforall.helloalice.com. And then Verizon Small Business Recovery Fund. Google that. And let's see, there's one more. The Red Backpack Fund we talked about last week. That's going to be for women entrepreneurs. And round 2 opens May the 4th. But if you haven't researched that out, I encourage you to go ahead and research that out, because they're actually getting email addresses to notify you when they actually start taking them.
Oh, wow.
So you'll be. And then the Visa Foundation has got a $210 million commitment to support small business, micro businesses as well. So those are some grant opportunities that were discovered last week. And we do have some restaurant opportunities. Yelp is actually offering some ads. It's called Yelp Restaurant Ads Relief Program. And then they've got the Restaurant Workers Community Foundation, RWCF, and then the One Fair Wage Emergency Fund, which provides cash assistance to restaurant workers, car service workers, delivery workers, and personal service workers. So if you can't get all this information, I know it's a lot all at one time, but you can always email us at thechamberinfo@selmaalabama.com or simply give us a call at 875-7241.
Awesome. That's some good stuff to know. Have you heard yet from any of our local retailers about reopening? Have any of them? I know it's kind of soon because the press conference was just yesterday morning. But did you have a chance to speak with any of the local retailers and find out what their plans are?
Yes, actually, they've been cleaning their businesses during this time, so they're ready to open their doors on Friday morning, bright and early. So I just hope everybody will go out and shop local and continue to support our small businesses and our community as well during these challenging times.
Challenging is an understatement.
Mm-hmm.
That's true, and we're still concerned about our healthcare workers. They're still on the front line doing a fantastic job. And speaking of that, McDonald's here in Selma began offering free thank you meals last Wednesday, and they are going to offer them through May the 5th to all first responders and healthcare workers. Wow. They're going to receive a free thank you meal by simply showing their ID or in uniform. They'll be offering breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Now that's fantastic.
That's the Murphy Family Restaurant's McDonald's.
So nice folks. I had the opportunity to meet them when they first opened up. Nice, good, family-oriented people. I appreciate what they're doing for our healthcare workers and first responders because they are the heroes right now.
They certainly are.
They're heroes all the time. Cindy, do you have anything for Miss Cheryl?
Well, actually, I wanted to get out there for any businesses that are opening on Friday to let us know. Email us at news@selmasun.com, and we are going to compile a list, kind of like we've had a list of those that are with their temporary hours, and let us know if you are opening, and we'll start a list of those that will be open. Cheryl, you may have a list already, but I know it's kind of early. We will be glad to share it. If you want to share it with us, we can get it out there on social media and on our website.
Did you hear that, Cheryl?
I'm sorry, I did not.
Oh, okay. Cindy was saying that she wants to compile a list of the businesses that are going to be opening, and if you could send those to her, that she will put them on social media and on our Selma Sun website so that everybody will be able to see what businesses are open and can get out there and start, patronizing them.
Support local. Sounds like a plan.
Yeah, support local, exactly. Well, all right, Ms. Cheryl, I thank you so much for being on with us again this morning. It's always a pleasure to speak with you, and it's nice to hear a little bit of positive news. You know what I mean?
Right, and we still want everybody to move around with continue to take all the precautionary details that they've asked of us to do because the virus is still out there.
That's exactly right. So we still have to watch that. But hopefully it won't be much longer. We'll start the downhill slide, and this will all be history.
So proceed with caution.
Amen. Thank you so much, Michelle, and we'll talk to you, again real soon.
Thank you, Todd. Have a great day.
You too. Bye-bye. So there we go. That's a lot of good help there, Cindy. A lot of good information on places where people can go.
Great information.
Yeah, very
Absolutely.
good stuff. So we kind of wanted to shift gears a little bit. You had have a story coming out in the paper tomorrow about a local person who's done good, as they say.
Well, a lot of times they say that sports is one great avenue to show your talents and to maybe even make it to the big time. And so we've got a Selma native who actually has made the NFL draft this week. So on Sunday night, Sunday they did the NFL draft, everybody from home. And there was a surprise in there, and it is a Selma High School graduate, 2015, and who made the Chicago Bears.
Yeah.
And his name is Lashavius Simmons, and he's 23, and he grew up on a farm here in Selma. And one of the things he tells the Chicago Bears is that he learned discipline early on a farm, and also, pushing hay bales. That's one way to really get some strength and the endurance that you're going to have being in the pros, but also working for your family from super young.
Oh, yeah.
And we have a great story that includes some information on how he really was under the radar. He went to Tennessee State. He's an offensive lineman, and big guy, 6'5" and 315.
Probably all muscle too,
And his arm length is like 7 feet, I think he says. So he's definitely someone to watch. We've had some success of players like Michael Johnson, who just retired at the end of last year. So it was exciting to see him play for a good while. He's in his 30s now.
Yeah,
he's been giving back to the community through his foundation. That's one of those great things, is if you've got somebody that gets the chance to make it happen, that they usually do give back to their community that they came from. So we're excited to watch him grow.
Yeah, and it seems like people from this area when they do well, they do have the tendency to bring it back home, and they don't forget their roots, which is so important.
And it's been fun too, because we put this online and on our social media on Monday, maybe the day after, and it has gotten so much attention. People just are really responding to this. It's kind of the little guy gets a chance the big time, and there's a lot of hope out there for him to succeed and do well and make Selma proud.
Exactly, and I can't wait to watch, like you say, and see how see how his career proceeds. I hope it does really well. I hope he finds fortune and does well. And on the same note, talking about sports, we just recently had a coaching and athletic director change at Morgan Academy, as you well know. And last week we had an interview with the new coach. Today, Bullet Hand has an interview with the outgoing coach. So let's see what Bullet and Coach Thacker had to talk about.
We're doing another one of these interviews. We've got no sports around the country and around the state with the pandemic, the coronavirus going around, but it's good to know sports, KNOW. When you have no sports on the TV or anything to watch, I know the NFL draft was a big hit because it was the only thing kind of normal. But anyway, joining us today is Josh Thacker, the former head football coach at Morgan Academy and athletic director. He had a 4-year run there and actually ended up being the third winningest coach in games for Morgan Academy, behind only Robert Gartman and Robbie James. Coach, welcome to the program, and it's good to talk to you.
Yeah, excited to be here to be with you guys today. Like you said, it's fun to be able to talk sports with people when there's no sports going on.
Yeah, Coach Thacker, folks, in case you hadn't heard, has left the job at Morgan Academy as athletic director and head coach. He's taken a job as an offensive coordinator at another school, a big 7A school. But he had a good run at Morgan Academy, 4 years, Coach. And I guess you had lots of fond memories of your days at Morgan Academy.
Oh, tons. It was, it was fun from the moment that we hit the door till the tough decision to move on somewhere else, and that was a gut-wrenching day for us when we had to make that decision. But a lot of great memories, a lot of great relationships made with people. Just nothing but great things to say about Morgan Academy and everybody involved with it.
Yeah, and the news for you, I guess, came before the pandemic when school was still in session. So we're able to tell the players face to face. So I guess that was a big thing of importance for you to be able to tell them face to face.
Yeah, it was. It was a blessing in disguise for us. It was the actual day that the news had came down throughout the state that some schools would be closing and doing different things, and we kind of stayed open that 1 or 2 more days to try to let people get acclimated and people make plans for daycare and different things for their children, which I thought was the absolute right thing to do. And it wound up being that last day. And I called a team meeting. The kids had already went home, actually. I think school let out a little bit earlier, whatever, and the guys came back and we met and shared some laughs and shared some tears and a lot of hugs. And, just I'm excited for those guys, and I'm excited for their upcoming season. I'm excited for their new head football coach, Danny Raines, and I'm excited for everybody at Morgan Academy.
Yeah, hopefully we will get a football season this fall for Morgan Academy. All the games, of course, on Alex FM for Morgan Academy. But, Coach, in your years there, you left a lasting impression in my mind at Morgan Academy as far as some of the things behind. The thing that's almost on the top of my list is the weight room. If people would have saw it before you got there and after you got there, that was really quite an improvement. What are some of the things that you remember your lasting impression that you left at Morgan Academy?
The relationships with the players, and it's not just it's different in smaller schools, and I'm a small school graduate, but it's just the relationships with the guys. It's not just them; it's their family members, their distant family members, grandparents, and everybody in between that played a special role in what we're able to accomplish. And it's going to be tough being somewhere other than Morgan Academy on Friday nights. But again, I'm excited for those guys and their future.
We are going to miss you indeed. As far as Morgan Academy's football team coming around this year, I know it was a tough year for everybody yesterday. The record, dropping down to 4-7, really the first losing season you'd had there and not making the playoffs. But there's lots, and I talked to Coach Raines about this, there's lots of things to be positive about for Morgan Academy because they've got a pretty good team coming back on paper.
Oh, it was a 4-7 season, and there was some gut-wrenching moments. But you look back at the scores, and we get beat by Pike in double overtime, which that's another loss to Pike in overtime. It's happened 2 years in a row. But you lose to Pike in overtime, you're up 21-14 or 21-7 against Lee Scott at the half. You get beat by a touchdown to Evangel. There's 3 wins or 4 wins out there that we just couldn't capitalize on, and that was youth, and it was lack of depth, and it was coaching, and it was just a little bit of everything going on there. Injuries. Trent played hurt all year. Thomas played hurt all year. And those are 2 of our 5 seniors. It was just Holt was hurt most of the year. Free missed the Pike game. Just one of those crazy seasons where the stars just didn't align for us.
Yeah, it did seem almost like a Murphy's Law type season where anything that could go wrong did go wrong. But the Senators do have a number of players coming back. They return a quarterback, which the Senators really under some weird circumstances haven't had a quarterback return as a starter in your 4-year tenure there. It seemed like everybody either left or graduated or decided not to play football the following year. So they got Andrew Thomas coming back. But I think the big spark plug will be Holt Utsi back there in the backfield. Sometimes you can just give him the ball and say, go at it, son.
It's one of the first things I told Danny when Danny was kind of asking about the job, and he and I were talking, and I was like, look, you've got the best back in the state of Alabama back there. He's special. He can make you miss. He runs extremely hard for him to be 160 pounds. He's fast. He's shifty. He's easy to coach. He's easy to love. You want to kill him a lot most days, but that's most of them too. But man, he's impressive.
Well, we all look forward to hopefully get back to normal, and we are going to miss you, Coach, being on the sidelines and even some of the practices. I can always tell when you're out there because you definitely could be heard. You made yourself heard above all the goings on at practice. You definitely have a set of pipes there.
Yeah, Kayla, my wife always made a joke about that she could hear me from the other end of she would be in the gym coaching volleyball, could hear me out there. So I guess the guys heard me.
All right, folks, we appreciate you being with us. We've been joined by head coach and athletic director formerly at Morgan Academy, is moving on to a 7A school as being the offensive coordinator. Coach, we're going to miss you, and we're going to miss Wallace coming around a lot too. But you made your impact on Morgan Academy. I think you ended up winning 24 games over in the 4 years, and that was, I think, the 2 years before you got there, we only won like 3 games. So a vast improvement, and we want to thank you for all your years of service to Morgan, and you definitely are leaving the program ahead of where you picked it up.
Well, I appreciate it. Like I said, we made so many lasting memories and relationships with people, and former Morgan Academy athletes would come back and do some things, and alumni were starting to pitch back in. And 2 seasons ago was extremely special. You had the crew in the end zone, the stands were full, you had the cannons going off, and you make a playoff run there, and you're in the semis the year before that. And even that first year, we had some injury bugs, but we started off 5-1, had a big win down at Glenwood, and definitely some good things, but none of it would have been possible without our administration, without the teachers getting behind us, without the community getting behind us. We had great coaches and still have great coaches at Morgan Academy. The weight room was something that we harped on, and it became something special for us. You had Sean Bonds, Hall of Famer. So, the stars did align for us there. And, it's tough to leave somewhere like Morgan Academy where it's so much just like a family atmosphere. But the good thing is we'll be a part of Morgan Academy for a long time. Wallace will be going there. And you never know down the road what might happen.
Well, thank you, Coach. We really appreciate you being with us. And we want to thank the folks at Scott Communications for making this possible. And we hope to have more of these interviews lined up as we continue down the road. But for everyone at Scott Communications, we appreciate y'all being with us. And until next time, this is Bullet Hand saying so long.
So there you go, Josh Stacker, a really nice guy, a really great guy. I enjoyed the few times I got to interact with him, and enjoyed the Friday night football too. So we got some good sports in this area, some good football. I mean, with all the schools around here, we got a lot to look forward to on Friday nights. We just got to get over this virus mess, and so that we can have our Friday nights back.
Yes, I'm looking forward to that as well. And I think our readers will be too. We don't have a sports page going right now because we don't have any local or high school sports. And I know that it's been such a loss for so many kids at the high schools. We did a story about 2 issues ago about looking at some students that didn't get to finish their athletic years because they are a spring sport.
Right.
And it's so hard for them.
And like our semi-pro team, the Selma Vikings, their season got started and stopped abruptly because, we couldn't gather.
That's a good point. And they could be an economic engine for us. So it's
sure. And what really breaks my heart for them, and I'm gonna reach out to Coach Broadnax again. Maybe we'll get him on next week. They just started in Selma last year. This was their second year, and there was a lot of promise. This looked like it was going to be a year where they were going to really excel, but they didn't have a chance to do so because of this virus. So,
and I know they were getting a lot of interest in players that are local.
Right, so exactly.
That played at, some junior college level or finishing high school. And so it is a good chance to get noticed. We just talked about a Selma native that went under the radar.
Right.
And he got noticed at some of the bowls, the training camps that they can do. And I think that, there's several opportunities, but a semi-pro like the Vikings is one of those opportunities.
Yeah, and that's why we need that to come back. When you have a situation like this, being the pandemic and all the restrictions and stuff, just like I've been saying on the air for forever, how and why, the reasons behind it, who started it, all that stuff, although it's important, at this point, we don't need to worry about that. We need to worry about getting over it. Once we get over it, we can start pointing fingers and make people or countries or whatever, make people answer for what's happened. But right now we need to, and this is coming from somebody who is my views of what government should do are they should stay out of my life. But right now, we don't want vulnerable people to get sick. One of the things that, like Scott Harris pointed out, and again pointed out over on the air, repeating people like Scott Harris, is that I'm not in the high risk group. Other than my weight causing my blood pressure to be up a little bit, I have a perfectly clean bill of health. However, I could still be carrying the virus and it affect me minimally to the point where I wouldn't even notice. But I could pass it to somebody like my father or mother who's in their 80s and has other problems. So that's why we've got to really be careful until this thing starts to leave the population enough that we don't have to worry.
Another thing that we haven't talked about today yet is about the census.
Good point. I'm glad you brought that up.
I've gotten a lot of correspondence from folks with the census that are saying that Dallas County is not responding at fast enough rate, and they're really honing in on getting us to get the message out to Dallas County residents to make sure to fill it out. It is so easy. And I know online access is a challenge, but you can do it from your phone. Most folks have a phone.
Right.
And I did mine, and I just moved, as you know, here in Selma, and I used a code that was on a postcard that came to this address for whoever lived here. And it took me maybe 10 minutes to do at the most. It's not hard, but what it does is it gives an accurate count of people that live in certain areas so that we can keep representatives in the Congress that can represent us. If we lose a seat, we lose a voice in federal government. There's census-driven funding that is at stake as well. I mean, there's like $13 billion worth of economic development money they give out, grants and stuff that we would miss out on because our account won't be accurate.
Yeah, and it's again, as much as I hate for the government to know everything about me, there are times when you have to come together as a team, as a country, as a society.
They're not asking anything.
It really isn't. It's not that invasive.
To me, they didn't ask me anything that Victoria's Secret doesn't ask me when I sign up to get their newsletter. I mean,
me too. And when I get my Victoria's Secret newsletter, I get so excited.
Yeah. But you know what I mean.
That little red number is so cute.
It asks a little, asks for, dependents, how many kids under 18 live there.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not asking you what tax bracket are you in, are you an immigrant or not.
I went into
it may have asked, are you a citizen, but
I went into it with that attitude of, I'm not going to answer all these questions. And I kept saying, I'm just going to make sure I only answer the questions they need to know. And I started looking at the questions just like, well, that, anybody could know this.
Very basic.
Yeah, anybody could know this about me. Yeah.
Right. And we want it to be us giving the information, not them having to go find it by other means, which would be records that we wouldn't want them digging through. I mean, to me, it helps you avoid any government intervention into your information.
Right, exactly.
You're providing it on your own, and I think that's empowering. So we need to see that, it's a good representation of, and think about it, Dallas County, we don't change that much. Our farms are there forever.
Yeah.
I'm in a house from 1969. This house has been here for a long time.
Right.
It's not like we're building new homes, and it's any kind of like Hoover, where I moved from, has all these new neighborhoods that pop up within a year, and they definitely need to know theirs. Our data is not that complicated.
But we need to get it out there.
But we need it to be given properly and correctly so that we can still get the money that we need in a economy like ours.
Yeah, the financial assistance, and again, I can't reiterate how important it is to keep representation in the federal and the state government.
We don't want to lose a
Do
district.
not want to
if
lose
we
that.
lose, yeah, then that's one less voice for us as
Right.
the black belt in government, and that's what you need is somebody that can represent you.
Yeah, and
not fewer people to represent
exactly. Exactly. If anything, we
you.
want to gain, not.
And it's so easy, and you're at home. Most of us are quarantined. You've got 10 minutes.
Yeah, and you can do it, like you say, online on your phone. If you don't have computer access, you can do it on your phone. You can do it by mail, snail mail. You can, I think the post office maybe has the census forms, but they've mailed them out. If you can make a phone call to, who was it? It was, there's an 800 number. I should have written it down.
The easiest, the online, the website is 2020census.gov.
Right.
And that's where, they're basically giving us a heads up that 46% have responded so far.
Well, not even half.
Self-response rate, right. They were hoping, like at the 2010 one, so 10 years ago, had 56% rate taken. So, we're not keeping up even with half.
And like I say, there's a number. You can find the number. If you don't have a paper copy, you can have one delivered by snail mail, fill it out, and then send it by snail mail, as well as doing it online.
Let me see if I can find it.
Yeah, it can easily be done. It's just a matter of taking the 10, I guess from the time you sit, get your pencil, get your paper, sit down, look at it, and then fill it out. You're going to spend a total of maybe 15 minutes, maybe. The actual process of filling it out, it took me 10 minutes, and it was done with, and, I went on to doing whatever. So,
right.
You're right. Well, Cindy, we're in the last minute of the show. Why don't you give them a quick rundown and wrap the show up telling us what all to expect in tomorrow's Selma Sun.
We actually talked to a teacher about the challenges and benefits of having online teaching. There were a lot of teachers that were not prepared for this, so they kind of launched into it. And we have one teacher that talked to us about seeing that actually it brings a lot of responsibility to the students because it lands on them to remember these things, and that's going to be a good life lesson for them. We looked at and talked to about the COVID testing in Perry County, which we talked about earlier, the NFL guy that we are really rooting for. And there's a good wrap up on our news page of all the things that are going on within, we did have a closure of American Apparel for a few days because of a case that they knew of. And also about the McDonald's offer that Cheryl had mentioned earlier. So we have a lot going on in here that is COVID related, but also some fun education photos and your story about the experiment station, and that's important with the Auburn University Black Belt Research Center.
Sounds like it's going to be a full paper this week.
It is.
Fantastic. Well, thank you again, Cindy, and we'll do it again next week. And thanks for everybody for tuning in and all the folks that participated. Cheryl Smedley and Bullet Hand and, of course, the governor. Thank you all.
Yeah.
We'll be back next week.